The Galactic Council had always been a place of order, of carefully maintained balance between the great powers of the galaxy. For millions of years, the Council had governed the affairs of countless species, establishing laws and protocols that ensured peace and stability. But peace had a price, and that price was the suppression of anything that threatened the established order. Humanity had been a member of the Council for barely a century, and in that time, they had already become a source of constant irritation. They asked too many questions. They pushed too many boundaries. They refused to accept the limitations that the Council had placed on technological development. They were a disruptive influence, and the Council had had enough. The High Counselor, a being from the ancient Vexari species, sat at the head of the Council chamber, its translucent skin pulsing with a steady, determined rhythm. The chamber was filled with representatives from over 50 species, all of them looking to the High Counselor for leadership. The humans have become a threat to the stability of the galaxy, the High Counselor declared, its voice resonating through the chamber. They have ignored our warnings. They have violated our protocols. They have developed technologies that we have specifically forbidden. They must be stopped. The Thraxi representative's mandibles clicked with approval. I have been saying this for years. The humans are dangerous. They cannot be trusted. They must be controlled. The humans have proven themselves to be a valuable member of the community, the Valari representative countered, its form shifting with concern. They have contributed to our understanding of the universe. They have helped other species in times of need. We cannot simply turn on them because they are different. We are not turning on them, the High Counselor said, its skin pulsing with a cold determination. We are protecting the galaxy. The humans have crossed a line. They have developed artificial intelligence that rivals organic intelligence. They have created weapons that could destabilize entire star systems. They have pushed beyond the boundaries that we have established for the safety of all species. They must be brought to heel. The Valari representative's form shifted to something that suggested deep concern. And what exactly are you proposing? I am proposing that we take action, the High Counselor said. We will issue an ultimatum. The humans will be given a choice: surrender their forbidden technologies and submit to Council oversight, or face the consequences. And if they refuse? The Valari asked. The High Counselor's skin flashed with a cold, ominous light. Then we will show them the consequences. The ultimatum was delivered to the human delegation on Earth. Ambassador Sarah Chun, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, read the document with a growing sense of dread. The Council was demanding that humanity surrender all advanced technologies, dismantle their AI systems, and accept permanent oversight from Council observers. The alternative was war. This is unacceptable, Chen said, her voice trembling with barely contained anger. We have done nothing wrong. We have developed technologies that could benefit the entire galaxy. We have created AI that could solve problems that have plagued species for millennia. And now the Council wants us to give it all up? The Council sees it differently, the Thraxi diplomat said, its mandibles clicking with smug satisfaction. They see your technologies as a threat. They see your AI as an abomination. They see your species as a danger to the established order. You have been given a choice. I suggest you take it. Chen's eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? The Thraxi diplomat's mandibles clicked with dark amusement. Then you will face the consequences. The human government was divided. Some wanted to surrender, to avoid a war that they could not possibly win. Others wanted to fight, to defend their hard-won achievements and their right to determine their own destiny. The debate raged for weeks, with no clear resolution in sight. And then, the Council made their move. A massive fleet appeared at the edge of human space, their ships bristling with weapons. They had given the humans a deadline, and the deadline had passed. The Council had decided to enforce their will through force. The human fleet scrambled to respond, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Council ships were more advanced, their weapons more powerful, their shields more resilient. The humans fought bravely, but they were being pushed back, their colonies falling one by one. Ambassador Chen watched the disaster unfold from the command center on Earth, her heart heavy with grief and anger. She had tried to find a diplomatic solution, but the Council had not been interested. They had wanted to destroy humanity, to make an example of them, to show the galaxy what happened to those who defied the established order. We need to do something, Chen said, her voice desperate. We cannot just sit here and watch our people be destroyed. The military commander, General Marcus Webb, shook his head slowly. We are doing everything we can, Ambassador. But the Council has more ships, more weapons, more resources. We are fighting a losing battle. There must be something we can do, Chen insisted. There must be some weapon, some technology, some secret that we can use to turn the tide. General Webb was silent for a long moment. There is something, he finally said, his voice low. Something that we have been keeping secret for a long time. Something that even the Council does not know about. What is it? Chen asked, her eyes widening with hope. It's a weapon, Webb said. A weapon that we developed in secret, in case of a situation like this. It's dangerous, perhaps even more dangerous than anything the Council has ever seen. We have never used it because we were afraid of what it might do. But now, we may have no choice. Show me, Chen said. General Webb led her to a secure facility, deep beneath the surface of Earth. The facility was filled with scientists and engineers, all of them working on a project that was hidden from the rest of the galaxy. At the center of the facility was a massive machine, its purpose unknown. What is it? Chen asked, her voice barely a whisper. It's called the Nightmare Engine, Webb said. It's a weapon that targets the minds of our enemies. It doesn't destroy their ships or their bodies. It destroys their sanity. It turns their greatest fears into reality, makes them see things that are not there, forces them to experience their worst nightmares over and over again. It is the most terrifying weapon ever created. Chen stared at the machine, her mind racing. And you think we should use this? I think we have no choice, Webb said. The Council has given us no choice. They are destroying us. They are killing our people. We have to fight back, and we have to use every weapon at our disposal. Chen took a deep breath, her heart pounding. Then we use it. The order was given, and the Nightmare Engine was activated. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Council fleet, which had been on the verge of total victory, was thrown into chaos. The crews of the ships began to scream, their minds overwhelmed by visions of their deepest fears. Ships collided with each other, their crews unable to function. The Council's advance was stopped in its tracks. The Council was in shock. They had never seen anything like it. Their ships were still functional, their weapons still powerful, but their crews were incapacitated. They could not fight, could not retreat, could not do anything. The humans had unleashed something terrible, and the Council was paying the price. We need to find out what they are using, the High Counselor demanded, its skin pulsing with a frantic energy. We need to counter it. We cannot let this continue. We are trying, the Valari representative said, its form shifting with concern. But we don't understand what they are doing. Their weapon appears to be targeting the minds of our crews. It is making them see things, experience things that are not real. It is breaking them. The High Counselor's skin had gone pale. What kind of weapon can do that? I don't know, the Valari admitted. But I do know that the humans have unleashed something terrible. Something that we cannot control. Something that may destroy us all. The Nightmare Engine continued to ravage the Council fleet, spreading terror and madness through the ranks. The humans had turned the tide of the war, but they had also unleashed a weapon that they could not fully control. The nightmare had been awakened, and it would not be easily put back to sleep. The activation of the Nightmare Engine had been a desperate gamble, and it had worked beyond anyone's expectations. The Council fleet had been thrown into complete disarray, their crews incapacitated by visions of their deepest fears. The humans had won a temporary reprieve, but they knew that the Council would not give up so easily. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood in the command center, watching the holographic display that showed the retreating Council ships. The sight should have filled her with relief, but instead, she felt a growing sense of dread. The Nightmare Engine had worked, but it had also changed something fundamental about the nature of the war. What are we going to do now? She asked General Marcus Webb, her voice quiet and strained. We need to press our advantage, Webb said, his face set in a grim mask of determination. The Council fleet is in chaos. We need to strike while they are vulnerable. We need to show them that we will not be defeated. And then what? Chen asked. What happens when the war is over? What happens to the Nightmare Engine? Webb was silent for a long moment. I don't know, he finally admitted. We created this weapon to be a last resort, a way to defend ourselves against overwhelming odds. We never planned for what would happen after we used it. We never thought we would survive long enough to have to deal with the consequences. The human fleet moved to intercept the retreating Council ships, their weapons blazing. The Council crews were still incapacitated, unable to fight back. The humans destroyed dozens of ships, their victory swift and brutal. But the Council was not beaten. They had withdrawn to regroup, to find a way to counter the human weapon. The war was far from over. The Valari representative had been working tirelessly to understand the human weapon, analyzing the data from the battle. The findings were deeply disturbing. The humans have created a weapon that attacks the mind directly, the Valari reported to the High Counselor. It doesn't destroy ships or bodies. It destroys sanity. It forces the victims to experience their deepest fears, their worst nightmares, over and over again. It is a form of psychological warfare that we have never seen before. The High Counselor's skin pulsed with a deep, angry red. We need to find a way to counter it. We need to protect our crews from its effects. We have been working on that, the Valari said. But it is not easy. The weapon operates on principles that we do not fully understand. The humans have developed something that is beyond our current technology. We may not be able to counter it. Then we need to destroy it, the Thraxi representative declared, its mandibles clicking with fury. We need to find the source of this weapon and destroy it. We need to send a strike force to Earth and eliminate this threat once and for all. The High Counselor considered the suggestion. It is risky. The humans have proven that they are capable of defending themselves. But we have no other choice. We need to end this war, and we need to end it on our terms. The strike force was assembled, a fleet of the Council's most advanced ships. Their mission was simple: reach Earth, destroy the Nightmare Engine, and capture or kill the human leadership. It was a suicide mission, but the Council was desperate. Meanwhile, on Earth, Chun and Webb were preparing for the inevitable counterattack. They knew that the Council would not give up, that they would try to destroy the Nightmare Engine. They had prepared defensive positions, had fortified their defenses, and had stationed their remaining ships around Earth. They are coming, Webb said, his face grim. We need to be ready. We will be, Chun replied. We have come too far to give up now. We will defend our homeworld, and we will defeat the Council once and for all. The Council fleet arrived at Earth, their ships blazing with weapons. The human defenders fought with desperate courage, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. The Council was pushing forward, their determination fueled by their fear of the Nightmare Engine. And then, the humans unleashed the Nightmare Engine again. The effect was even more devastating than before. The Council crews were overwhelmed by visions of their deepest fears, their sanity shattered by the onslaught. The fleet was thrown into chaos, their ships colliding with each other as their crews lost control. But this time, the Council had prepared. Some of their crews were protected by experimental shielding, technology that had been developed in haste. The shielded ships were able to push forward, their weapons targeting the source of the Nightmare Engine. The facility was hit, and the Nightmare Engine was damaged. The flow of psychic energy was disrupted, and the Council crews began to recover. The humans had lost their advantage. But the damage had been done. The Council fleet was in ruins, their crews traumatized by what they had experienced. The war was far from over, but the humans had proven that they could defend themselves. Chun looked at the damaged facility, her heart heavy with loss. We need to rebuild, she said. We need to fix the Nightmare Engine. We need to show the Council that we will not be defeated. We will, Webb said, his voice filled with determination. We have survived worse. We will survive this, and we will make the Council pay for what they have done. The war had entered a new phase, a grinding conflict that wore down both sides. The humans had repaired the Nightmare Engine, but they were running out of resources, running out of ships, running out of people. The Council had also been weakened, their fleet decimated and their crews traumatized. Neither side could achieve a decisive victory. Ambassador Sarah Chun had been working tirelessly to find a diplomatic solution, but the Council was not interested in talking. They had been humiliated, and they wanted revenge. The war would continue until one side was completely destroyed. We need to try again, Chun said to General Webb during a strategy meeting. We need to reach out to the Council. We need to find a way to end this war. They will not listen, Webb said, his face tired and worn. They have made that clear. They want to destroy us, and they will not stop until they have achieved their goal. Then we need to give them a reason to stop, Chun insisted. We need to show them that the cost of continuing this war is too high. We need to make them understand that we will not be defeated. And how do we do that? Webb asked. We are running out of options. We are running out of time. Chen was silent for a long moment. We need to use the nightmare engine again. We need to hit them where it hurts, to make them understand that we are capable of destroying them if we have to. You want to escalate the war? Webb asked, his voice filled with disbelief. We have already seen what the nightmare engine can do. It is a weapon of terror, a weapon of madness. If we use it again, we risk destroying everything we have worked for. We have no choice, Chen said. The council will not stop. They will keep coming, keep attacking, keep killing our people. We need to show them that there are consequences for their actions. The decision was made. The nightmare engine was activated again, but this time, it was aimed not at the council fleet, but at the council itself. The weapon was targeted at the leaders of the council, the ones who had made the decision to attack humanity. The effect was immediate and devastating. The High Counselor was the first to fall. Its mind was flooded with visions of its deepest fears, its sanity shattered by the onslaught. It screamed, its body writhing on the floor of the council chamber. The other leaders were similarly affected, their minds broken by the nightmare that had been unleashed upon them. The council was in chaos. Their leaders were incapacitated, their fleet in disarray. The humans had struck at the heart of the council, and the council was paralyzed. We need to stop this, the Valari representative said, its form shifting with concern. We need to surrender. We need to end this war before it destroys us all. We cannot surrender, the Thraxi representative insisted, its mandibles clicking with fury. The humans have attacked us. They have used this terrible weapon against us. We must fight back. Fight back with what? The Valari asked. Our fleet is decimated. Our leaders are incapacitated. We have no way to counter the human weapon. Surrender is the only option. The debate continued, but the outcome was inevitable. The council had been broken, their will shattered by the nightmare engine. They had no choice but to surrender. The human delegation, led by Ambassador Chun, arrived at the council chamber for the surrender ceremony. The chamber was silent, the representatives subdued. The High Counselor, its mind barely recovered, stood at the head of the table, its skin a pale, sickly white. We surrender, the High Counselor said, its voice barely a whisper. We acknowledge your victory. We will accept any terms you dictate. Chen looked at the broken leaders, her heart heavy with mixed emotions. She had achieved victory, but the cost had been immense. The nightmare engine had done its job, but it had also changed everything. We do not want to destroy you, Chen said, her voice steady. We only wanted to defend ourselves. We wanted to be treated with respect. We wanted to be allowed to determine our own destiny. If you can accept that, then we can end this war. The High Counselor nodded slowly. We accept. We will respect your sovereignty. We will treat you as equals. Just make the nightmare stop. The war was over, but the scars would take generations to heal. The nightmare engine had been a weapon of last resort, a desperate gamble that had paid off. But it had also been a weapon of terror, a weapon that had broken the minds of countless beings. The humans had won, but they had also lost something essential in the process. The aftermath of the war was a time of reckoning for humanity. They had achieved victory, but the cost had been immense. The nightmare engine had devastated the council, but it had also left lasting scars on the human psyche. The weapon had been designed to target the minds of enemies, but its use had also changed the humans who had created it. Ambassador Sarah Chun walked through the halls of the council chamber, now a place of reconstruction and healing. The representatives who had once mocked and dismissed humanity now bowed their heads in respect. The humans had proven their power, but they had also proven their capacity for destruction. I never thought it would come to this, Chen said to General Webb, who was walking beside her. I never thought we would have to use the nightmare engine. I never thought we would have to break their minds to save ourselves. We did what we had to do, Webb said, his voice tired and worn. We defended ourselves. We protected our people. We did what any species would have done in our position. But at what cost? Chen asked. How many beings did we destroy? How many minds did we break? How much of our own humanity did we lose in the process? Webb was silent for a long moment. I don't know, he finally admitted. I don't know if we will ever be able to answer that question. But I do know that we survived. We are still here. We can rebuild, and we can learn from our mistakes. The reconstruction was slow and painful. The human colonies that had been destroyed by the Council were being rebuilt, but the memories of the war would never fade. The Nightmare engine was decommissioned, its components scattered across the galaxy to ensure that it could never be used again. The Council, too, was in the process of rebuilding. The old leaders had been replaced by a new generation, one that was more open to cooperation and mutual respect. The Valari representative had been instrumental in this process, using its ancient wisdom to guide the Council toward a more peaceful future. "We have learned a valuable lesson," the Valari said during a meeting with the human delegation. "We have learned that respect is not something that can be demanded. It is something that must be earned. And we have learned that the cost of disrespect is higher than we ever imagined." Chen nodded slowly. "We have learned lessons as well. We have learned that war is never the answer. We have learned that our actions have consequences, that we must be careful about what we unleash upon the galaxy." The new order was established, a system of cooperation that respected the sovereignty of all species. The humans were given a seat at the table, a voice in the decisions that affected them. They were no longer dismissed, no longer mocked, no longer ignored. They had earned their place through struggle and sacrifice. But the nightmare was not over. The Nightmare engine had left lasting scars on the minds of those who had been exposed to it. The Council crews, even those who had survived, were haunted by the visions they had experienced. The High Counselor, though recovered, was never the same. Its mind had been broken, and it had been put back together imperfectly. And there were other consequences that the humans had not anticipated. The Nightmare engine had not just targeted the minds of the Council. It had sent ripples through the fabric of reality, ripples that were now beginning to manifest in strange and unexpected ways. "We are picking up strange readings from the edge of the galaxy," the head of human intelligence reported to Chun and Webb. "There is something out there, something that we cannot identify. It may be a natural phenomenon, or it may be something else." "Something else?" Chun asked, her voice filled with concern. "What do you mean?" "I mean that the Nightmare engine may have done more than we realized," the intelligence officer said. "It may have attracted attention. It may have awakened something that was sleeping." Chun felt a chill run down her spine. The nightmare was not over. It was just beginning. The strange readings from the edge of the galaxy had become impossible to ignore. Something was out there, something vast and powerful and completely unknown. The humans had sent reconnaissance missions to investigate, but the ships had never returned. Whatever was out there, it was not friendly. Ambassador Sarah Chun stood in the command center, watching the holographic display that showed the unknown entity approaching human space. The entity was massive, larger than any ship or station that the humans had ever seen. Its shape was indistinct, its purpose unclear, but its intent was obvious. It was coming, and it would not be stopped. "We need to prepare for the worst," General Webb said, his face grim. "Whatever that thing is, it is coming for us. We need to defend ourselves." "Defend ourselves with what?" Chen asked, her voice filled with desperation. "We used everything we had against the Council. We are exhausted, depleted. We cannot fight another war. We have no choice," Webb said. "We have to fight. We have to survive. That is what we do." The entity arrived at the edge of human space, its vast form blotting out the stars. The humans sent a diplomatic mission to make contact, but the entity did not respond. It simply continued its approach, its intent unknown. And then, the entity spoke. Its voice was not a sound, but a thought, a presence that filled the minds of everyone who heard it. "You have awakened us," the entity said. "You have disturbed our slumber. You have unleashed forces that you cannot control. We are the nightmares that you have created. We are the fears that you have weaponized. And now, we have come to claim what is ours." Chun felt a wave of despair wash over her. The Nightmare engine had not just targeted the Council. It had awakened something far more terrible. It had given form to humanity's worst fears, had brought to life the nightmares that they had been using as weapons. "We need to destroy it," Webb said, his voice desperate. "We need to use the Nightmare engine against it." "We can't," Chen said, her voice trembling. "The Nightmare engine is what created it. Using it again would only make it stronger. We need to find another way." The entity continued its advance, its vast form casting a shadow over the human colonies. The people were terrified, their minds filled with visions of their worst fears. The entity was feeding on their terror, growing stronger with each passing moment. And then, Chen had an idea. We need to stop being afraid, she said. The entity feeds on fear. If we can control our fear, if we can refuse to be afraid, we can weaken it. We need to show it that we are not afraid, that we will not be broken by its presence. The message was spread across the human colonies. Do not be afraid. The people were terrified, but they were also determined. They had faced worse threats, had survived impossible odds. They would not give in to fear. The entity continued its advance, but it was slowing. The humans were resisting its influence, refusing to be consumed by their own fears. The entity was weakening, its power diminishing. And then, the humans launched their counterattack. Not with weapons, but with hope. They projected images of their triumphs, their achievements, their dreams. They showed the entity that they were not just a species of fear, but a species of hope. They showed it that they were capable of greatness, that they would not be defeated by their own nightmares. The entity recoiled, its vast form shrinking. The humans had turned the tables, had used their own strength against their enemy. The entity fled, retreating back into the void from which it had come. The nightmare was over. The humans had survived, not through destruction, but through hope. They had faced their worst fears and had refused to be broken. They had proven that they were stronger than their nightmares. Chen stood in the command center, her heart filled with relief. We did it, she said, her voice barely a whisper. We survived. Webb nodded slowly. We did. But we can never forget what happened. We can never forget the cost of our victory. We must learn from our mistakes. We must never again create weapons that we cannot control. The galaxy had been changed forever. The humans had faced the council, had faced their own nightmares, and had emerged stronger. They had proven that they were not just a species of destruction, but a species of hope. And that was the greatest victory of all. The story of humanity's struggle became a legend, a warning to those who would create weapons that they could not control. It was a reminder that fear could be overcome, that hope could conquer even the darkest nightmares. And it was a testament to the indomitable human spirit, the spirit that had survived against all odds, that had refused to be defeated, that had proven that they were worthy of respect. The galaxy would never forget what the humans had done, and the humans would never forget the cost of their victory. They had awakened a nightmare, but they had also found the strength to defeat it. And that was what made them truly remarkable.